December the 29th, 2006, outside a luxurious villa in India, a dense crowd had gathered in solemn silence. Several men, their sleeves and pant legs rolled up, waded through a foul-smelling drainage ditch, searching something. Suddenly, a hand surfaced amidst the filth. Soon after, multiple sacks of human remains were dredged from the murky water. Investigators made a grim discovery. These fragmented remains belonged to villagers who had gone missing over the past 2 years. What happened to them? Why were they callously discarded in this wretched trench? As the investigation deepened, police unearthed an even more terrifying secret. Noida, a city in Uttar Pradesh, India, lies just 20 kilometers east of the capital New Delhi. As a crucial hub for industrial and trade development, numerous multinational corporations have established branches or offices here. On the outskirts of Noida sits a densely populated village called Nithari, a place where two different worlds coexist: wealthy businessmen living carefree lives and the lower-class servants who cater to them. Among the village's grand residences stands an imposing 2-story villa, locally known as D5 Mansion. Its owner, Moninder Singh Pandher, lives there with his wife, children, and their servants. For years, rich and poor villagers coexisted peacefully, with almost no conflicts, until 2005, when unsettling events began unfolding. Girls started vanishing near the D5 mansion. Every month or two, another would disappear, without a trace. Jabu Lal's daughter met the same fate. Jabu, who ran a laundry in the village, had sent his 10-year-old daughter Jyoti Lal to deliver clean clothes to a customer across the street from the D5 mansion one day in 2005. But she never returned. Before Jyoti's disappearance, 2 or 3 other girls had already gone missing in the area. And every time, the children were last seen near the D5 mansion. After Jyoti disappeared, Jabu repeatedly joined other grieving families to file police reports, but authorities dismissed their pleas. With police inaction, the disappearances multiplied. By May 2006, 10 children had vanished from the same small area. Yet even then, Indian police refused to act. Their chilling response: "Countless people go missing in India every day. This isn't special. Stop overreacting." Left to fight alone, the families turned to desperate measures. A boy named Rajesh, whose sister had also disappeared, mustered the courage to call local journalists. He revealed his sister vanished near D5 mansion. Police blamed elopement instead of investigating. Begging for media coverage, he hoped publicity would force action. He was wrong. The police never even acknowledged the reports. The cycle worsened. Police apathy enabled the criminal. More children vanished. Families screamed into silence then. In December 2006, everything changed. As more children vanished, the desperate families banded together and stormed the Residents' Welfare Association in protest. The association's chairman, Mishra, immediately took action, leading 2 villagers to investigate the foul-smelling drainage ditch behind the D5 mansion. The stench had long plagued the area, but this time Mishra wasn't just searching for the missing children. He wanted answers. Armed with shovels, they dug through the sludge. Then, a rotting hand surfaced. The discovery sent shockwaves through the village. Soon, dozens of men arrived, frantically digging through the filth. More horrors emerged: severed limbs, decomposing remains, and sacks stuffed with human fragments. Confronted with the horrific evidence, the villagers immediately called the police. This time, the authorities finally grasped the severity. They dispatched forensic teams and investigators to the scene. What awaited them would haunt them forever. No exaggeration. It was the first time they had seen so many human remains, and likely the last. The victims had all been dismembered. Not a single intact body remained. Some limbs were rotted beyond recognition, others fresh enough to suggest recent killings. Then, the sacks. Pulled from the sludge, their contents were more horrible. The ditch also yielded shoes, clothing, and personal items that once belonged to the missing. Among the onlookers, several villagers instantly recognized the clothing. They belonged to their missing children. The truth hit hard. Mothers collapsed, wailing in grief. Enraged, others hurled stones at the mansion, screaming curses at Pandher, the man they assumed was the killer. But as the investigation unfolded, inconsistencies emerged. Pandher had investments worldwide: Australia, Canada, the US, China, and was rarely home. Bank records and flight logs proved, during the disappearances, he wasn't even in India. Under interrogation, Pandher insisted, "I travel constantly for business, that I knew nothing about those bodies." The police were baffled. What motive would a multimillionaire businessman like Pandher have to commit such a heinous large-scale crime? Initially, investigators suspected organ trafficking, but forensic checks found no evidence, ruling out that theory. So who else could it be? Police shifted focus to others in the mansion. Their investigation zeroed in on Koli, Pandher's most trusted servant. When Pandher was in India, Koli shadowed him constantly. All household orders went through him. During Pandher's travels, Koli managed everything. Effectively, he was the mansion's house steward, the one constant presence. The timeline matched. While Pandher was often abroad, Koli was always there. A glaring red flag. Police hauled him in for questioning. Inside the interrogation room, under intense pressure, Koli cracked, and his confession left investigators stunned. In his own words, "There was a girl from Sector 30, named Deepal. She walked past the house. I lured her inside with candy, then strangled her unconscious with her own scarf. Her body, it was intoxicating. I wanted to do something, but I couldn't. So I killed her instead. Then, the unthinkable, but as I stared at her, I wondered how she might taste. So I tried." According to Koli's confession, he lured victims into the D5 mansion with candy, chocolates, and sweets. Once inside, he would strangle them with their own scarves, drag their bodies to his upstairs room, violate them. When there was nobody home, he would dismember the corpses and dispose of the remains in the drainage ditch at night. The reason the victims trusted Koli enough to follow him was his carefully crafted facade of kindness. Even the investigating officers admitted Koli seemed harmless, even naive. He acted humble, unassuming. Nothing like the monster he truly was. Soon after, forensic tests revealed horrific evidence. Bloodstains soaked into Koli's floor and walls, matching his gruesome confession. But why? What drove him to such unspeakable cruelty? The answer may lie in his past. Koli's hometown lay 450 kilometers away, an isolated village swallowed by dense forests. This was a place frozen in time, no internet, no television, just bare necessities where tigers and leopards prowled into settlements. A world so raw, survival eclipsed modernity. At 13, Koli left the village, boarding a train to New Delhi in search of work. Quiet and socially awkward, he struggled, until Pandher noticed him. Soon, he became a live-in servant at D5 mansion, tasked with cleaning, laundry, and cooking. Inside the opulent mansion, Koli's worldview was utterly transformed. Gradually, he observed his master Pandher's debauched lifestyle, a man who wielded wealth, power, and an endless stream of willing women. Day by day, this toxic environment poisoned Koli's mind. He began fantasizing about the fortune and women. Occasionally, when Pandher was in a good mood, he would arrange a woman to accompany Koli. But because of Koli's lowly status, even prostitutes looked down on him. This deeply wounded Koli's pride. Yet in India, the caste system is brutally unforgiving. As someone born an untouchable, Koli, in fact, had no chance of ever rising above his station. This silently twisted Koli's mind and soul, leaving him torn between contradictions. On one hand, he played the role of a loyal servant, while on the other, he burned with desire to become like his master, Pandher, someone who could dominate everything. This introverted, soft-spoken man, this so-called honest and humble soul, eventually stretched out his hand toward the innocent. According to Koli's own confession, he was able to decompose the body so skillfully because when he was a child, he followed his father, who was a butcher to cut animal carcasses. In his eyes, victims and animals are the same. What's more horrifying, Koli had tasted some body parts before decomposing them. He actually was a vegetarian because of the belief. According to psychologists, Koli was interested in meat when he was a child. It was a religious belief that forced him to suppress these desires, ultimately leading to psychological distortion and his descent into cannibalism. Additionally, the exact number of victims in this case remains disputed. According to Koli's confession, he killed a total of 19 people over a 2-year period. Police confirmed this number based on the skeletal remains excavated from the drainage ditch. However, according to local media reports, the number of missing persons in the area far exceeds this figure. The fate of these individuals may forever remain a mystery. At this point, Koli's crimes have been conclusively established. Yet throughout the investigation, one persistent question remains regarding the wealthy landowner Pandher. All the skeletal remains were discovered near Pandher's mansion, yet the perpetrator was merely a servant. This presents a logical inconsistency. In India's rigid caste system, it's virtually unthinkable for a lower caste servant to defy or conceal activities from their master's will, let alone boldly discard bodies near the master's residence. Such actions, if discovered, would have brought brutal consequences upon the servant. Thus, Indian police unanimously concluded that the mansion owner Pandher and Koli were engaged in joint criminal activity. On February 13, 2009, both Pandher and Koli were sentenced to death. Unexpectedly, 7 months later, the Allahabad High Court in Uttar Pradesh acquitted Pandher, citing insufficient evidence. The influential tycoon thus managed to extricate himself completely from the case. Furthermore, by 2015, Koli's death sentence had been commuted to life imprisonment. Some victims' families accepted compensation of 1.2 million rupees, while others continue to fight in court, seeking justice for their loved ones. Yet their pursuit of justice remains an uphill battle. Pandher's close ties with powerful officials not only secured his complete acquittal, but also influenced the reduction of his servant Koli's sentence from death to life imprisonment. Though investigators found no direct evidence linking Pandher to the crimes, the case defies logic in India's rigid caste system. How could a lowly servant alone orchestrate such a massive, gruesome serial killing spree? Moreover, Pandher's decision to spend a fortune funding his servant's legal defense is highly suspicious. Koli killed 19 people inside the mansion and dumped the remains in its drainage ditch. Stench so foul nearby residents could smell it. Would a shrewd businessman like Pandher truly remain oblivious? That's all for now. If you enjoyed this case, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow Case Diaries. There are plenty more cases coming your way. Got thoughts on today's story? Drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. See you in the next one.